What's up, everybody? Welcome to the live today. Good to see the usual cast of characters already here. And I'm sure we'll be getting some more filing in here as we talk this morning or this afternoon and talk about some true crime. I'm excited. I got some good stuff for you. Great to see you guys. So, wearing the Destiny shirt, I get a lot of compliments on this shirt. And in case you missed it, I want you to be able to see the full shirt. And I know you're jealous, but I have found like three different uh, print on demand type, like Teespring. And I'm going to try one and see what happens. And hopefully they don't have an issue with the design. And then I'll sell the Destiny stuff on there, and then the rest of the merch will be on the Teespring because it's going to be a pain to deal with the both of them, but Teespring is pretty simple. So if this is the same, and I know that the people that I read about reviews of them and stuff said these three that I'm looking at are the top ones. So that's good. So we'll get you guys some cool merch, and you want the Destiny, and I'll see what kind of options they have. I did see one of them had a cutting board, and I thought, how cool would that be to get the Murder Metal Mayhem logo on a cutting board? It looked so cool with the blood spatter on it. Would just be awesome. But yeah, so we'll see. That's some exciting stuff that they have on some of these other sites. It's not doesn't hurt to look around. So all right, well, why don't we point out who's here first, just to thank you guys for being here early. Of course, got Donna Lembo, the moderator in chief and the captain of the Mayhem Squad. So she's here to fend off any trolls that want to get silly. Karis from Voice of Astrology, always here. Very nice to see you, Karis. And let's see, we got all right, Jesse from HVAC Works, awesome. Tabby, awesome. Catherine S, awesome to see you, Catherine, and thanks on the compliment on the leg. I'm actually going to talk about that and show the group today what it looks like in case they didn't see that post. So thank you, and I think that's everybody that's here early that's in the chat. So I know sometimes people watching aren't not in the chat, and that's fine. I I kind of try to stay out of the chat unless it's like something I'm really interested in, and I let people know I'm there. You know, try to support the others doing this. But hopefully, you got something nice to drink there. You got yourself, whatever you like to do, and hang out with me and talk about this stuff. Feel free. I get to see notes here. Oh, the prosthetic. So yeah, everything's going well. I did a post on the community tab about it yesterday. I went to the VA here in Peoria, um, and they took a look at it and had me do some standing and walking with the walker and balancing and that sort of stuff. And I did well, did where I should be. And then I mean, I wasn't running a race or anything, but and then he measured my leg, which is important because the socket, which is where the leg goes in, and I got mine on right now, or I'd show you, but the socket part, the top part, um, where the leg goes in, they want it to be cone-ish, conical in shape, and most amputees bail out at the bottom because of the shock to the body that the limb's not there. So you have to wear these shrinkers to help put it in that shape. And so I've been doing that, and then measured me, and I was quite a bit smaller. And then the stump actually shrunk a little bit too, which he said is normal. So those are all signs that I'm probably about where I need to be, and I'm not probably going to shrink much more than this. So then he went ahead and ordered the permanent one. So this one I have on is just to practice with, and then the permanent one will have my graphic in it that I designed. And so I'm going to share that with you right now because I know some of you may not have seen this. So this is cool. Let me see if I can find it here. Give me a second here. There we go. So that's what it's going to look like. The place that's doing it is like the best at these. The VA uses them, and they're they're really awesome. And it's gonna look cool. But I got the flames on there, and then I'm gonna get a tattoo on my stump of the flames like going up, so it'll go up my leg. I'm not gonna go crazy with it up the leg, but it's gonna look cool. It's gonna look cool. Something you could see with shorts on, so it'll be cool, and looking forward to it. I think I'm going to try to find something that, like something small, like a little thing I could attach to it that I could push a button and it plays a little sound. That would be really cool because I do like a guitar squeal, so when I come in somewhere, I could push the button and you hear that guitar squeal with that on there. I mean, that'd be just completely badass. So yeah, hope you like that. Hope you like that. Hope you like that. So yeah, it's been a slow process. It takes a while. I'm starting to be able to do more things now, realizing I actually have a leg there because for, you know, 18 plus months I've been without it. So it's uh it's hard to now remember that I actually have it. So I have to remind myself sometimes, and I'm able to do things like, wow, I can just like stand up and pivot instead of having to do it on one leg and do like a ballet move to get to the chair. And it makes people nervous when they watch it, but it's like, well, you got one leg. There's really no other way to do it. Hopping is an option, but that's hard to do and dangerous as well. So I don't need that in my life. So yeah, transferring is a big deal when you're in this situation because they got to make sure you can get from your chair to the bed and other things you want to sit down on the toilet or whatever. So it's a big deal because that's when falls happen. So, but Donna likes the design. Very cool, Donna. I'm glad you do. I dig it as well. I think when I first started playing around with AI was when this came up, and I was on their website and it talked about designing your own. And I'm like, well, that's kind of cool. I could do some. I've been doing all the thumbnails and stuff for since I've done the channel, and the thumbnails are pretty decent. So I thought, what the heck. So I put in AI what I wanted it to look like, and it was like, wham! It was like perfect. So I tried a couple different AI programs, and the one that I showed you is the one that I thought looked the better of the two. But they were both wicked. Both really cool stuff. So if you haven't played around with AI, it's pretty cool. And it's nice for people like me that are not like an artist, like a drawing artist, can't do it, but I know what I want it to look like. So like my imagination, and then I've been taking like creatures or characters from my stories where I describe them very vividly, copying and pasting it and putting in an AI and then have it tell me what it looks like. And some of the stuff is pretty damn cool because then I can see it visually as well as think of it in my mind when I'm describing it in other places. So it's really cool. So I find it incredibly helpful, incredibly helpful. So yeah, there you go. There you go. All right. Thanks, Karis. Very nice of you to say. I appreciate that. Appreciate that. And Foxy Rose is here as well. All right. What's next on the list? With these open discussions, we just I want to generate a conversation. I come prepared as always with the whole production of stuff we could talk about. but it's only because, I want to have something so we're not just sitting here talking about my leg for, an hour and a half. Uh, so have some stuff at the ready. But man, if you've got something you want to talk about, if I know anything about it, I would be more than happy to discuss it somewhat, as much as I can, because like I said, it's a lot of cases out there, and I'm certainly not following all of them, and definitely not, burying into, deep into any of these yet. I mean, I'm like testing some waters with cases that I think could really do something, but, not going like whole hog on any of them. But you've been noticing, if you follow the channel, I've been putting out some other videos. I just put a one on the David case just moments before I did this. And then I did the Jonathan Gerlach. I'll be doing more on that dude, with the bodies in the basement. I mean, that's just like got murder metal mayhem written all over it, So, so yeah, I'll be following that one. Brian Schaefer, or Schaffer. I'm not familiar with that one, Jesse. The Black Dahlia, yeah, that's a great unsolved case. And you always have the many people, that think they've solved it. I definitely have my suspicions when it comes to the Dahlia case, but that would be a great one to do. Um, Maybe serial killer story hour, even though it doesn't totally fit serial killer, but it's certainly serial killer esque with the way the body was left. So yeah, I'll have to think about that. Maybe do a special on it. That might be fun. Maybe if you want to do it with me, Karis, you can come on and do it, the Black Dahlia with me if you like. We could do a video and put it out there like I did with Alicia with misleading evidence. So if you're interested, you just let me know. You just let me know. All right. Yeah, that new book, I was just thinking of that as I was saying those, that it's unsolved. Karis, I know you have a book. I definitely would be interested in checking it. I think I did do an Amazon search for it, when you told me about it. And it was one of those I saw it and then forgot to just actually buy it. So I probably need to just get one because I always am up for that. I bought one about the Zodiac that I thought was like legit as hell, but then it was proven not to be true. So that's the other thing with those. Sometimes, there's a lot of them out there, but if you're saying it's good, then I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is. Interesting. Catherine S. is saying that the Black Dahlia may have been a victim of the Zodiac. I think I've heard that before. That guy has been blamed for a few different, like more high profile cases that that you wonder if it's true. I don't know, but the Zodiac is one of the, like you guys are talking about the Black Dahlia. I'm like really interested in Zodiac. I mean, we did a big 2 hour special podcast on the Zodiac. We called it Zodiac Palooza, and it was like the whole thing was Zodiac. There was no metal or mayhem. It was just all Zodiac, and it was a good one. But it's on the channel under the podcast tab. But that would be a good one to do a video on. I mean, there's so many great cases, and it's so frustrating. Like I did one on the Gerlach case, and it got like 400 views. And then I did one on Bethany and that Yessie Arajo, sorority sister video, and that one just broke 4,000. So when you look at it like that, it's like hard to justify just keep doing videos that nobody watches. But thankfully, I've figured something out that's pretty cool, and so I've been playing around with it, and I'm noticing some slight changes, but nothing dramatic yet. But I'm hopeful that I will be able to see some improvements. But with cases that I don't Zodiac, or I'm sorry, Idaho 4 videos, those are surefire with my audience, but the other videos not so much. Even though I've been told, yeah, do it. I'd love to watch it. And there is a core audience that watches them, but it's so lopsided, it's crazy. And I don't know how these YouTubers that are not the big channels, but the moderate channels that are doing this like to pay the rent, that's got to be rough, because YouTube's always changing things and doing things a different way, and it can be confusing. It can be confusing. But the Boston Strangler would be a good one. Would be a good one because there's a lot of controversy about that one, and always hate that case because you got the Italian. I gotta sit here and talk about this Italian guy that did all these horrible things. So, but yeah. Oh, here we go. Something interesting from Catherine S. Says it's interesting. AI can decode that. Not even AI can decode the zodiac cipher. Yeah, that's interesting. That book I was talking about, The Most Dangerous Animal, by I can't remember the guy's name, but his he claimed he was the son, and that his dad abandoned him on in the like lobby of like this church and left him there, and then left town. He did this. He was looking at the ciphers, and it was spelling out this guy's name. Van Best was the guy's his dad's name, and I guess he did some time in prison because that's how they found the name. This San Francisco police sergeant was behind that. So yeah, it's interesting, but like I said, it turned out to be untrue. So it's got some advantages, AI for sure, but it does, like that with the ciphers. Then you had those two math teachers, right, husband and wife, that solved that one. That's cool. So I think eventually they'll be solved, or they're just gibberish to mess with people. That's possible too. I never learned anything like that in the army, so I don't know it. Can't speak of it. I did have a top secret clearance because I was dealing with maps and like a training for combat situations, dealing with maps of troop locations and stuff. So I had to have that. That's as much of that as I got into. But all right, so great suggestions, guys. Loving it. You're making my brain click and think, and I'd love to do them. If you suggest one and you want to do it with me, like I said, I'm all for it. I'm retired now. I got all the time. We can schedule it whenever and do it like this and be cool. So Big Ball Guy reacts. It's going slow, but if you're into reaction channels and want to see me in a different environment, you could check it out. Big Ball Guy reacts. I've done some good ones. Done some Springer, the hillbilly the hillbilly karate guy, which is just nuts, and then the blind country pimp. Those episodes are really funny, and I did reactions. Plus, I did other stuff, extreme cheapskates, and some commercials and stuff. So yeah, if you're into that kind of thing, go check that out. All right, and thank you to Donna and Catherine S. is here today for doing the mods details. I appreciate that very much. And you don't want to miss this Tuesday. That's the next serial killer story hour. I'm going to be doing the legendary Australian case, the Snowtown murders. This is a brutal one with, they called it the bodies in the barrels case. So that tells you anything, involving three men that murdered a variety of people, very strange, that were all associated with them. So it was like kind of obvious once you started really putting it together that these three guys were the center of this whole mess. But yeah, and then in some cases they were keeping their whatever Australians call like their Social Security type. They were collecting benefits, so they racked up all thousands and thousands of dollars of stolen money, and yeah, it's pretty wild. But we'll be doing that case. It's going to be good, and if you haven't already done so, hit that like button. I've been saying put some touch DNA on that. If you're not subscribed, please do. I'm getting close to 15.5 thousand. So definitely appreciate you that subscribe. And as always, if you're watching this on the replay, go ahead and drop a comment and hype it if you got any of those left. I don't know how often that replenishes. I never know. I just go and I see it's available and I hit it. So if it's something I dig. So all right. So the first thing I wanted to kind of start it off with, there, Donna put the link to Big Ball Guy Reacts. Thank you, Donna. Um, so I wanted to start off with some Idaho 4 stuff that I thought would be interesting. I meant to get this queued up and I did not, so I'm not going to show the video. I think most of you have probably seen this video I'm going to refer to, but sometimes people give me grief that I don't show certain things in my videos, like I'm just talking about it. And it's like people have seen this stuff so many times. I don't want to waste your time looking at something you've seen already. If you haven't seen it already, then you can go look at it somewhere else and then they'll show it to you, or read it to you. I don't do a lot of the reading and all that stuff. I do a little bit of it, but not much. I don't think you're here for me to read to you. You know what I mean? So I just kind of like to let it fly. And it's scripted out to a degree. Most of the stuff is very ad libbed, and especially doing lives because those are not scripted. That's just kind of like bullet points that I work off of. So I've always been a guy that does lists. So what I wanted to talk about with the Idaho 4, the scream at 2 a.m. 2:27 a.m. Jules has it on there. If you want to go watch it, I'll try to link it in the replay so you can go watch it for yourself. I downloaded it with the intention of getting it down to small bits so I don't get copyright problems, and I didn't have time to do it, so I apologize there. So at 2:27 a.m., it's unmistakable. It's a blood curdling scream. We've all heard it. If you follow this case like I do, we've all heard it. If you're new to the case, then like I said, go to Jules. You can watch all that kind of stuff. She gets really into the detail and she does a good job. So go check her out. But yeah, it's 2:27 a.m. Now the thing is, I've heard some people say, "Oh, it was a movie that they were watching at 1112," because remember, this video and this audio that we're talking about is coming from their cam and it's shooting across the street, which is King Road. And so the house that, where the murders happen is behind them. Okay. So that's how loud this scream was, that you could hear it very distinctly on a camera on the opposite side of the house from the 1122. And then you've got, the distance between the two houses in addition to that. So it was loud. Okay. And so that's the camera we're talking about. Now, what she did, which I thought was cool, was she went to the Linda Lane footage. And this Linda Lane stuff, when I hear that, I just like glaze over because I've tried to listen to some of the stuff people hear and I just can't hear it. So I usually don't care for the Linda Lane stuff. I think there's some good things there. I lose my patience. But she had it locked into the 2:27 a.m. and you could hear it there. So if it was a movie being played at the 1112 house where the camera is, there's no way you're picking it up on the Linda Lane camera, which would be on the other side of King Road or Queen Road, behind the Queen Road apartments. which is next to the house. I mean, you're talking a fair distance away. There's no way you would hear it. But it's interesting, you could hear the scream on that camera, so it was pretty damn loud. It's not as loud as it is on the other one because it's a little further away, but still, it's still you could hear it. So it's interesting to hear that there's like corroboration of that, because like I said, some people were saying it was from a movie or something going on in that house, and that's what it was, but it wasn't. But it wasn't. And yeah, Donna or Catherine here says I don't hear much of the Linda Lane stuff either. Yeah, I've tried, and the thing is, guys, I do audio. If I wanted to be a jerk and I wanted to do all sorts of weird little hidden screams and door slams and stuff, I could do that all day long and make it sound very real. I don't do that because, first of all, that's wrong. And second of all, I'm just not that kind of person to try to capitalize on something that's fake. So, but it's not that hard to do. So these people that get this audio, I just wonder, is it real? Is what I'm hearing real? And that's where I have a hang up with sometimes using it or trusting it. But so yeah, so I think it's interesting to talk about that because nobody else is. I was saying from quite a bit ago, at least 2 years ago, at least, that the most likely time that it happened was just after 2 o'clock, like 2:10. And I say that because, as I mentioned before, the grub truck and them chanting Xana and all that happens at like 2:12, 2:13, which is always weird when that number comes up because remember, that's Dahmer's apartment number. I always remember that because of the Slayer song 213. Anyway, I digress, as Harsh would say. So you've got all sorts of, things going on there that I think, makes a person wonder, I mean, like with all these cases, you got just all these things. There's always something about this case that really just doesn't make any damn sense. And this is just part of that. But I think, the video stuff corroborating that 227, and I think the crimes happened, like I said, around 212, 213. I think Maddie and Kaylee may have gotten dropped off later than what um, Gower is claiming, because that may have been the scream. They came walking into seeing that, and that's when Kaylee starts calling Jack. So that's why it's all kind of fallen into place. The 226 call to Jack precedes that 227 scream, and then it's calling him repeatedly until what, 256 or something like that, and then that's when I think everybody was done for, in my personal opinion. And I think that just scream at 227 to me makes all the sense that that's when it happened. Right after two, like 210 ish, up to just before three. They would have had plenty of time to take their outer clothes off or their regular whatever they had on, bag it up, put it in like a backpack, clean up quickly. They were in that kitchen because we saw there's blood all over the damn place in there when they tested it. So with the amino black. So you got that's probably what they did is they stood in the kitchen and cleaned up superficially, put on a fresh set of clothes that they had in the backpack, and then they left. Now maybe, if you think that there was about four of them there, that jives with the 313 time you see the people running across the band field from the King Road house toward Greek Row. It's four of them. So I mean, it all kind of ties in. It all kind of ties in, and I don't know. I mean, it seems over the top for frats, but I don't. But then when you hear some of these things that they do, and just these the secretness of it all, you know. Alicia, good to see you here. At 221, you could hear female yelling, "Oh my God," and a male voice as well. Yes, I have heard that. And there's quite a bit of what sounds like yelling, like before the scream, right? So it sounds like there was some sort of altercation going on in that house. And then the, uh, the, people could hear, from that camera, you could hear it, and then the scream comes in and it's certainly very pronounced. But yeah, there is stuff there for sure. Um, Yeah, Donna says, that the 227 thing, it kind of makes sense for the whole scenario, but unfortunately the other footage sent to Jules had no sound. I know. That's BS. What happened? What was it between 12 and whatever time this one started? So that 12 to 2 or 12 to 1 or whatever that time was, you're right. Had no sound. So very suspicious. So yeah, Jules, I think it was Jules that was saying that with the 1112 video, that they gave the detective like an access code to get at it, like, from his office. And so and Jack Decor apparently was the one that got the footage first. He went to them. Ironically, his house is within view of that camera. You could see it off in the distance. So I wonder if something was going on there where he didn't want that being heard. So could he have potentially taken the sound off it if he had access to it? I don't know. You know, if he could do anything audio wise, it's the easiest thing to do, hit the mute button. But, I don't know, who knows what, but they were all college kids. I'm sure they were more than capable of doing something like that, probably with a phone. So, you know, but yeah, let's see. Okay. What's your opinion on the AI stuff that some people do to get Maury? I'm not sure what that is. We keep asking, and AI tells a story of a conspiracy and crypto money. Yeah, I'm not familiar with any of that. I'm not sure what that is, Solotita. So I can't answer that one. The biggest thing, Jesse from HVAC Works, biggest off putting thing to me about this case is the undercover cops in a Prius handing out tickets for beer. Never heard of this at my university. Yeah, it's complete BS. Jesse, I agree with you 110%, buddy. I mean, it's awfully suspicious. In addition to that, what he just said, what cinches it for me, okay? I've said this before. What cinches it for me is that they're on the band field doing this nonsense with these kids that were seemed sober as all hell. I mean, I've been played in bands for 30 years, okay? I've seen people drunk and out of complete control, all right? That was not what we saw in that video. I mean, they were totally normal. So that was just BS. It was like a play. They were acting and doing it poorly. Not to mention, one of those three is actually was dealing with it at the time. I don't know if it's been resolved, but he murdered his stepfather, and he said it was in self defense. So that's interesting that dude was among those three. Can't remember his name right now, but yeah, there's something up with that because they're there at the time when I think all this happened, right? Because when the kids run across the light, the distant light in the band field, you could see them running right across, their silhouettes very distinct. They're like either jogging or walking quickly. They're going toward Greek Row, 313. That's about when they wrap it up with those kids and they leave. So they were there at the same time all this happened because remember that 4chan post. And I know some people laugh about 4chan and all that stuff. And, I don't know. It's like Wikipedia, right? We use it, but could there be some bogus stuff in there? Sure there can, you know. So, you do the best that you can with it, but some people think that, that's what was done here, and so it's it's a difficult one to deal with. Like I said, so many things that happen here with this case. I mean, they're there right at that same time this happens, 50 yards from them. I mean, what are the odds of that? And to play it off as this silly, drinking enforcement or whatever the hell they were calling it in black, you would think they would be wearing uniforms, if you're going to be going up to people at, 2 o'clock in the morning on a darkened field, you better be having some damn ID and a uniform on, not dressed like a friggin' ninja, So that's just all suspicious. I agree with you. And I don't doubt that that car was probably the one that was showing up on some of these cameras because it looks awfully like an Elantra. I mean, a lot of these cars look this damn same. They're very similar. And every one of these videos is ridiculously blurry. I mean, every time these cases come up, it's like this, like I would think like there's got to be better technology out there. I mean, seriously, if you're going to have a camera, what uses of it or what uses is there that you can't even read a license plate or distinctly see who's in the car? If that can't be done, then what's the purpose of it? I don't know. Because now we're having to decipher the size of the headlight and all this crap because you can't tell by looking at the car. So you got to try to figure it out. And there's been these web sleuths that have come up with some awesome discoveries, like the dude that figured out the back plate and all that stuff. That's amazing. I wish I had the drive to do something like that, but that's just too intense. So I don't do that sort of thing. But man, that's good work. That's good stuff. So, but I agree. Those undercover cops at the Banfield, very, very suspicious. Yeah, and then Jody Lee, good to see you, Jody, says that skinny, dark headed one kept looking behind himself like there was something going on. Yeah. They were also staring at their phones. And I know that kids that age stare at their phone, okay? But if you're a college freshman and a cop is asking for ID and all this shit, I mean, I know that they're ridiculous with the phone, but think I would think that you'd at least put it away when you're dealing with that part of an interaction with a cop. That you wouldn't be just scrolling Facebook or YouTube or Instagram or, TikTok or whatever the hell they were doing. And that's why I have posed that I think the damn thing was broadcast. I think that there were people looking at what was going on in that house. It was live streamed. And I think that it was done. And I have people that tell me I'm crazy, but I'm telling you, the Saeed, the dude with the real bushy eyebrows, comes out on the band field, all suspicious. Right out of nowhere, he shows up. He's laughing, talking about partying over at Matt's house. Could have been Matt Moyer, not sure, but he's the dude that lived up on the hill behind the house, and he had a porch with a telescope, and he was able to look at those girls. So, gee, that dude's suspicious. But who knows? These kids could have been sitting up on that porch, partying it up at Matt's house, and then saw them come home and all that, and then moved into action. I don't know. I mean, it's very suspicious. But he shows up out of nowhere, and it's very screwy. If you've never watched that Banfield stuff, I strongly suggest it. I've done some stuff with it in videos and on the True Crime Deep Cuts. I know I did a review of the Banfield on there. So if you're interested in my take on it, you can go watch that stuff. But also, Huda London and Bubbly Waters, also super good with the Banfield, as well as the Grub Truck. If you're interested in either of those, that's your source there because they're good at that. So yeah, and the one doing the Corey Hart impression, right, with the sunglasses at night. Yeah, that very suspicious. I mean, maybe he was high, so he put the glasses on, whatever. But it was weird. I mean, I wouldn't be walking around with sunglasses, walking across a dark field, for God's sakes. You know what I mean? That's just stupid. But then again, that just because they're in college doesn't mean they're smart. They just got money, or they good in sports and things like that. There are hardworking people there. I'm not saying there's not. It's just these fraternity punks. Those are the ones that are usually the rich kids. A lot of them don't deserve what they're getting because they're just spoiled brats. So that's what I think. All right. Let's see. What else did I want to say about that? Um, I did a video on that Yessie Arajo. I'm not sure if you guys saw that one, but I heard about her on Nika's Neuro Nuggets. I've talked about Nika before. I think she's got a good channel. She's interesting, that's for sure. She's got a great way she does what she does. But she was talking about Yessie, and I didn't really know anything. I'd never heard the name before, but she was a friend of Bethany's. They were both Pi Phis, so they were in that Pi Beta Phi sorority. Maddie was too, if you remember that. But the story is that Bethany and Yessie, her real name is Yesenia. Um, Yessie and Bethany left Sigma Chi's party together, apparently. But we don't know how they left, whether they drove or walked or whatever. Not a far walk, but they might have driven over there. Who knows? So there was a lot going on in Moscow that night. There was some other big party that apparently Ethan and his brother and Maisie were at. And then they went to Sigma Chi from there. So Xana was supposedly already there waiting on him. So there was a lot of people moving around, which is very interesting, I think. A lot of like last minute people, just lots of movement, easy for something to happen, right? So, that's the claim is they left together. So where did they go? Did they just go to their separate ways? Um, Yes, he lived at the sorority house. Her address on the subpoena is the sorority house address. So they subpoenaed her as a defense witness. So she was supposed to testify for the defense. So what does that mean? That means, well, she must have seen something that would be exculpatory to Brian Koberger because that's why they'd want to have her on there. And maybe that's why Bethany has some exculpatory evidence that would help Brian. So the two of them were together. So no crap, right? So I think that, that's a very strong probability that who knows? Does that mean they heard, let's just say they were at that Sigma Chi house, saw the fight, supposed fight between Ethan and David Loach, and let's say they heard Loach allegedly threaten him, like severely, like screaming in his face, threatening him. And then Ethan leaves, and then he's like assembling a posse, something like that. Or maybe they saw a bunch of them leaving the frat house and making a beeline over to the house when they were going home. I mean, there's a lot of ways that this could have went down, right? We're all guessing. We're all guessing. We don't really know. But I'm just throwing out some possibilities that pop in my mind when I think of what could those two girls have knowledge of that would have helped Brian. And if they were at that party, that to me seems like a pretty good indication that it either happened there or it happened when they left there. That's my take. But, it's just my opinion. So she's interesting. Now they tried to subpoena her, serve her with the subpoena, but they weren't able to get service on that. Now she's living at the sorority house. So I mean it's not like it's some abandoned apartment somewhere. This is a house where people live. You know, there's the house mother and all this stuff. So you would be getting human beings coming to the door and you would ask, you know, I'm serving this and she's not here. She doesn't live here, whatever they were telling them. But that was her address. That's where she lived. So I'm not sure what to make of that, you know. And when Bethany was being questioned, the cop was asking her, you know, what about your, you know, your friend? Why won't she talk? And some people have said they thought that he was referring to Dylan. Well, that's certainly not the case because we saw Dylan blabbing her head off right as soon as the damn cop showed up. She's sitting here. Well, according to what 4 a.m., you know, starting with that whole bullshit story. So it wasn't her. It was Yessie, I think, and so did Nika as well. Thought it was that's made the most sense because they were together when they left there. So that was what the video was about. So if you missed it, go check it out. I put it out just a couple days ago. So, oh, I saw Jody says, I think you're right, Pete. I think the whole thing is a lot simpler than we all think. It's simpler, but there's a lot of moving parts to it at the same time, though, Jody. I mean, really, I mean, when you think about what is the likelihood of all these people being in on something is really, really, really weird. But these people are all people of secrets. Sororities and fraternities are known for that. So, you know, you're dealing with people that, you know, are all about secretive things, you know. Somebody's asking about the Kyle Odom case. That sounds very familiar to me. Excuse me. But I can't I can't think of what he's done or what if he was a victim or the perpetrator, but I'm not familiar with that one, Melissa. I can put it on my list and check it out. But I do find that familiar for some reason. So, all right. Alicia says the only interview they did with Brian was the day he was arrested. Yeah, that was with Payne and Pennsylvania, and that Pennsylvania refuses to release it. When have you ever followed a true crime case, right? Think about all those great ones that Iwu, I love that channel, Explore With Us, I think it is. Drink a lot of water when I'm talking, excuse me. So when you follow a case, it's there's always a police interview, at least one, maybe two or three. Remember the Murdoch case? I refer to it a lot because to me that's like the classic case, right? It had three different police interviews. It was fantastic. Camera right in his face so you could get see body language. I mean, good stuff, you know. Imagine being able to see that video and what Brian said or didn't say, you know, would be very, very fascinating to see. There's got to be something on there that there's a reason why we can't see it. I mean, the case is over with. Why not let us see it? Right? If in their eyes the case is solved, you got the guilty guy serving an eternity in a cell, no possibility to get out of there, in their opinion. Case is over with. What the hell are you hiding now? I mean, what is there to hide? Unredact every damn thing and just release it and call it over with. But they won't. So they're hiding something. So that's, I mean, anybody that watches murder mysteries and stuff like that, these are like classic things, right? The person that lies, you know, what are they lying for, right? She said she wasn't there, but we know that she was because she's on video. Why would she lie about not being there? That kind of stuff, you know? So it's natural to think of these things as just not making any damn sense, you know? So not releasing that video. I agree, Alicia. It's ridiculous that they don't release it to us so we could see it. So let's see here. Just going through the comments here. Yeah, Catherine asks, isn't the interrogation video part of the Freedom of Information Act? I'm not sure, but I heard on multiple sources very recently that um, that they were blocking it, that it wasn't, that they weren't. Pennsylvania just refuses to release it. So I don't know if it's politics. I don't. I try my best to stay the hell out of politics. I don't have any idea if that has anything to do with it or if it's just the way they do things in Pennsylvania, right? I don't know. So just really weird. A lot of stuff going on in Pennsylvania with the Jonathan Gerlach and Koberger's from there and Kopaka's from there. It's like, what the hell's going on in the Keystone State? I mean, damn, crazy. So I'm not sure about that, Catherine, but that's a damn good question, right? It should be covered. And, think of it, it's our tax dollars, right? We don't live in these counties, most of us, but let's say you did, right? It's your tax money funding all this stuff. So they're supposed to show it to us. Let's see as people say, let's see the receipts. Let's see them. Let's see what all this stuff is that we're paying all this money. You keep telling us we're raising the damn taxes because we got to buy this new microscope that can do this and can do that and can dry the clothes and all that. And so, and so we want to see that stuff. That's the whole purpose of the Freedom of Information, I would assume. Again, I'm not an attorney. I just play one on a podcast and a YouTube channel. So I don't know. I don't know. Here we got Jesse coming back. HVAC works. Also, we haven't heard a word from Ann Taylor. Yeah, she pretty much dropped off the face of the earth. Um, Interesting. I don't know what to make of Ann Taylor, Jesse. I really don't. I really don't. Because, you know, I wondered in the beginning, she's a local girl. She's going to toe the company line. And then it seemed like she was really giving him some hell. So I was like, all right, cool, right? And then kind of at the end, she just kind of, okay, we're going to plead guilty. Like what happened there? Was it a breakdown on her end? Was it Brian, that just all of a sudden was like, look, this is what I want to do, At that point, what could she really do? She's got to do what he wants. So, it's it's an interesting situation with Ann Taylor. I agree with you there. So let's see. Susie says, can we start from the beginning? I'm not sure what you mean by that. If you're talking about this live, unfortunately not, because I'm missing the game that I wanted to watch. The Bills game is on. I'm not a Bills fan. I just think it's going to be a good game. And I want to watch it, Susie. So I can't start from the beginning. Now, if you're talking about can the investigators start from the beginning, that would be a damn good idea. That would be a great idea. Chrissy, or Susie, we should put you in charge out there. You could whip these guys into shape and say, look, let's start from scratch here, guys. Let's get some real investigators in there. That's what they had to do with the West Memphis Three. The West Memphis Three were freed because Peter Jackson, can't open that. Peter Jackson, the filmmaker, brought in all these experts and they figured out all this crap that they said. They said these were stab marks on these kids and they were friggin' turtle bites. So this idiot got this whole satanic panic thing on top of these kids and rushed them off to prison. One of them on friggin' death row, almost went blind because the lighting was so bad in the prison. And all because of this nonsense, this satanic angle, because the kid wore a Guns N' Roses shirt. I mean, for Christ's sake, give me a break. But that was what was going on. That's why when people were giving me crap about the 6666 thing, I used to say that's like an FU to the people that drove us nuts in the 80s. They were just obnoxious about it, and putting somebody in prison because of it is That's beyond that. I mean, that's just horrible. And, the medical examiner was completely inept. All these other medical examiners, they looked at the picture. They didn't even have to study it. They just looked at it, says, those are turtle bites. Next. They're like three or four of them did that separately. They all said that's what they were because there were those type of turtles in that river or stream where they were found. So that's the kind of crap that, could maybe save Brian someday if something were to happen where something big popped, somebody finally has a friggin' conscience and comes forward and says, yeah, this is what happened. I know this. But yeah. Melissa says Axel rocks. Yeah. I don't know so much anymore. He's looking a little rough. He looks like one of the Golden Girls now. Like, well, I don't know. John Bon Jovi, too. He looks freaking ridiculous. He should just like pack it up and just call it a day, just embarrassing themselves. So, oh, yeah. Lady Bird Lake. I do know about that case. We did a podcast on it. I think it was one of our last podcasts. It's on the channel if you want to check it out. We did a video on it. I've got a friend that lives near there. And so he was on and we talked about his, what it was like while it was going on as a resident and so forth. Still lives there. And they're still finding bodies there. There's been what, like almost 20 maybe by now, high teens, maybe 20 bodies. They're all middle aged, most of them, not everyone, but middle aged men or young. I shouldn't say middle aged, like 30s, 40s, maybe early 50s, that age range. Successful guys, all had good jobs. Some of them were business owners, I think. And they're found in this lake, and there's a big downtown bar scene. And some people wonder if there was like a bartender and somebody else working in tandem and he was like spiking their drinks. And then the guy would go outside and then the other person would, scoop him up and, walk off with them and then, do what he did and throw him in the river, the lake, the Lady Bird Lake. So yeah, it's an interesting case. I've done some videos on that. It's oh wow, Tabby's saying 35. My God, I didn't realize it was that high. I think when we did the podcast, it was like 14 or 15, if I remember. So holy crap, that's unbelievable. I also heard about the one in the bayous too. Actually, I saw a video about that and I meant to save it because I want to see what that's about. We've done cases down on the bayou before, so that would be interesting to check that out. 33 though, my gosh, what the heck is going on? Insane. Okay, so the David case, I wanted to bring up a little bit about that. I just did a video today, right before this live. The video came out. Kind of an update on where we're at the moment, but there's some more detail that TMZ has been putting out that kind of fills in some gaps. But the apparently, according to TMZ, the police are not an arrest is not imminent. They still need more time. They're doing their investigation, so I'm sure that this David guy is probably going to eventually get arrested once they've got enough to, really, really, nail him. But we'll see. I mean, he's innocent until proven guilty, right? All this stuff is just speculation. But TMZ says that they heard the body of Celeste Rivas was found frozen in the trunk, which doesn't make a damn bit of sense to me. I mean, this happened between April, when she was missing, and September 5th, I think she was found. So that's the hottest time of the year in Beverly Hills in a trunk. So either they were going there every couple days putting ice on her, or the body was put in there later than the vehicle was left at this airport or something like that in the Hollywood Hills. And then it got towed And then at the junkyard or the tow yard, that's when somebody noticed the smell. And then that's when they called police and popped the trunk. And then they found her dismembered. And we've heard that she was frozen. Now, it could also be that she had been frozen because they found some um, freezer burn on some of it's gory, but freezer burn on some of the flesh. So that's how they know she was frozen. So I'm wondering if it's just somebody misinterpreting what they said, right? It could be that she was frozen. That doesn't mean that they found her frozen, but that she had been frozen is what I think is the most likely thing that happened with the play on words there, so to speak. All right. But no more news on the second person. That was also supposed to be imminent, but now we're hearing no. I feel the most likely candidate here is his close friend and kind of on and off again boyfriend. Neo is how he goes. He's an R&B star apparently. He's friends with him, and they've done songs together and that sort of thing. Private investigator for the landlord of this estate that David was renting for $30,000 a month. I mean, holy crap! Can you imagine that? $30,000 a month, and it wasn't even his only house. So wow, must have been making some sick money. But that guy, the private investigator, says he's got video of someone driving the Tesla, but they don't know. He hasn't said who it is. But apparently, Mark Garagos on his podcast, Two Angry Men or something like that, that he does with Harvey from TMZ, he said that they told him who it is. So Mark Garagos knows who it was driving the Tesla, but he's not saying. So it's interesting. But was the body moved there, or was it, like I said, packed in ice? That I don't know. My guess is they found a freezer in his kitchen. You could see it through one of the surveillance police pictures through a window. You could see the freezer. So they very likely, I mean, she was a 14-year-old girl, so they could have chopped her up in like the bathtub, is how the mafia usually does it, and then packaged her up, put her in the freezer, let her freeze, and then, do what they were going to do. And they wound up finding that big incinerator, that burn cage. And that's not something you put in a house or a residential area. That's like for farms. And so maybe they were planning on burning her, and that's how they were going to get rid of the body. Who knows, right? So really, really wild. But check that video out. I just did. I definitely could use the views because it's a new case that I've not covered. I think I did one video on it early on, but it's been a while. So, but he's got this high powered attorney, Blair Burke. I don't know anything about her, but she's supposed to be a good attorney. And so, the police are going to be reviewing probably lots of surveillance video stuff to try to get a timeline of the drive to the cemetery or the airport, and then this ride to Santa Barbara that he took right before the girl went missing. And some people have speculated, is that where she was murdered? Was it this remote location in Santa Barbara, which was an odd place for him to go? But I believe they've got that with phone data. So kind of stacking up against them here with the evidence. But I don't know if anybody knows much about this case. Yeah, I just saw this, Tabby, that she was found 2 days before her 15th birthday. So she ran away when she was 13. She was, met him online. They got matching tattoos on their forefingers. I mean, certainly seemed like boyfriend and girlfriend to me, but the dude was 18 or 19 at the time. He's 20 now, but she was 13 when they met, 14 when she was, for the bulk of the time she was with him. And then she ends up missing in April of last year, and they find her September 5th. Birthday September 7th. So very, very sad. Very, very sad. Melissa's asking if he's connected to another missing girl. I have not heard that. I have not heard that, but makes you wonder. I mean, usually these things don't happen in a vacuum, but this dude's pretty young. But, a lot of serial killers started in their teens when they experimented with it for the first time. That's why these ones that start in their 40s that we hear about, it's like, they were probably doing this stuff in their 20s and 30s, maybe not as much because normally it builds, they do one and 6 months later another one, then 3 months later another. They get closer and closer because it's like a drug they can't stop. And as soon as the crime is over with, it's done. So they take mementos to kind of remember it later, but it's not the same. Tabby's asking, how close in time was she found to when those fires were going on? That's a really good question, Tabby. I don't know when the fires were going on. One of you guys with a phone could probably find out and throw it in the chat. I can't do it right now, but that's a really good question. I don't know. I'm not sure. Not sure about that, but that's a really good question. Okay, let's see. I got an hour and 7 minutes. I do these an hour and a half, so I'm trying to keep myself on pace here. I got some great dumb criminals. I mean, of the ones I've found so far, these are probably the dumbest. And that's saying a lot, right? That's saying a lot. On the Jonathan Gerlach case, I did want to mention a couple things. I've been doing videos on him. I've done 3 so far. They've charged this dude with 475 crimes. I mean, that's just nuts. And, he's not guilty until proven, otherwise. So we have to remember that. But they found over 100 sets of remains in the dude's basement. So, I mean, that's pretty, damning. And then a body hanging, partially decomposed in the basement, reported by a family member, I've heard, who saw it. So I don't know if they were like feeding a cat or what was going on, because he lived with a girlfriend. So I'm not sure what the family member was doing there. Maybe they were visiting the girlfriend. I don't know. But they called the cops. He was in Chicago selling a skull, apparently. And also, I found it interesting. I read an article about there's a tie between him and Jeremy Pauley. And I don't know if you guys remember that dude. But when I was doing the Harvard morgue scandal, I did a video on it. Paulie was a big part of that because the guys at the Harvard morgue were selling the body parts. And this Jeremy Paulie was in Pennsylvania. So there you go with another Pennsylvanian. Holy crap. He was buying a lot of this stuff. And when the feds raided his house, I mean, he had like dead infants in like 5-gallon buckets. I mean, it was nasty. They caught this dude. And if you remember, you've probably seen him. If you Google him, you'll see what I'm talking about. Half his face is tattooed. So he looks real freaky. And then sometimes I've seen him where he's got like the spikes coming out of his head like horns. I've seen him before with these crazy like, grills that he puts in that look like razors. I mean, he is wacky looking. Okay. Well, he just got sent away. 6 years he got for all that. And it's a federal bit, so he'll probably do the whole time there. So yeah, so they're going after these guys. I mean, this stuff is nasty. But I did find it interesting that some creators were calling him a metalhead, Gerlach, a metalhead. So of course that got my interest. I'm like, oh, let me check this dude out, right? I mean, I still think he's a piece of shit, but I'm just curious, what kind of music does a piece of shit like that make? So I went and listened to the video that they were all linking to. His band is called Milestone. I have it written down here. Hang on. Forgot it. Let's see. Where is it? Road to Milestone. is his band. So if you're interested, go check them out. They got YouTube videos, but the video I saw was like I was laughing because I was expecting it to sound like Cannibal Corpse. But the band name definitely I was like, wait a minute, what's up with that? I mean, I remember in low 12, we played with a band one time that was really good, really wicked, but they were called Burning Love Letters. And I told them, dude, you got to change that name. I mean, that's ridiculous. Anyway, but yeah, Road to Milestone is the band name. And this song sounded like pop, punky kind of pop. It was very lame. He was like dancing like Justin Timberlake style stuff. I was just like, what the hell? Gerlach was dancing and singing. My wife likes music a lot different than I do. We do have some commonality with that, but she liked it. She liked it, but she likes that kind of stuff. So when I heard it, I'm like, oh, Jenny would like this because it was something like I've heard her listen to before. She said it sounded like, oh, what was the band? 30 Seconds to Mars. She said that's what it sounded like to her. So if you like that kind of stuff, go check out Gerlach's band. I don't think he's in the band anymore, but yeah. Okay, Tabby's saying that guy lived 25 minutes from me. That holy crap, Tabby. Well, good that you're here and you're not in his basement, Tabby. Okay, I'm glad that you're here with us and not in that basement in Pennsylvania. What the hell? Yeah, burning love letters. I remember going to the gig and somebody's like, "Who's playing with us tonight?" I'm like, "I don't know." Like they would put different locals on the shows. I never half the time didn't know who they were. But when I see a band name that's like suspect, I'm like, "Wait a second, who put them on?" And then they got up there and they were really good, really heavy. I mean, good stuff. It's right up my alley, but terrible name. So yeah, it does sound like an Alanis Morissette song. That's funny. So yeah, I mean, it is. Foxy Rose says, I find it interesting when people keep dead bodies around. Yeah, that's just really weird stuff. But he sold some things. His Pinterest page, get this, or no, not Pinterest, his Instagram page. If you guys are into Instagram, you want to go see what he's doing over there. His screen name, Dead Shit Daddy. Okay. Dead Shit Daddy. So if you want to go check out what he's got going on over at Instagram, that's his handle or whatever they call it over there. So yeah, and he's got all kinds of pictures of skulls, animal skulls. It's not for somebody that's not into that sort of thing. So if you don't like that stuff, then don't go look at it. All right, it's just really messed up. Kara says, enjoy your game, Pete. Thank you very much, Karis. It should be cool. Looking forward to it. It's kind of different when your team's out of it. So it's like, it's cool to just watch it as a fan. So, yeah. So, anyway, if you want to check out Gerlach, go check out Road to Milestone. I'm sure they got a bunch of listens now because of this stuff. All right. So, we got time for some dumb criminals. I'm sure you guys, and the last time or two, I've had to rush through them. Now we can have a little more fun and just kind of laugh about these fools, okay? Because there's some good ones here for us to laugh at. And so let's see here. First one, okay? I'm going to tease these with my title. First one, Naked Man Car Stealing Spree, okay? Naked Man Car Stealing Spree. And let me find that. Here we go. Oh, I hate these sign in things. It's so annoying. Okay, so near naked band. Damn it. Near naked. Trying to play with these pop ups. It's terrible. Near naked bandit went on a wild carjacking spree through a Georgia neighborhood while wearing nothing but a tablecloth until he was ultimately cuffed in the buff. Peach State cops received a report Friday of a stolen vehicle that was believed to be in the possession of a nude suspect, Mackenzie Call. in the Gwinnett County Police Department announced Saturday. So there he is, running with a little tablecloth in front of his genitalia. Okay. And later that day, police found the vehicle, but Call was not inside. Witnesses told authorities he fled on foot, and officers noticed signs he may have been exposed to chemicals while inside the car. The chemical Call was supposedly exposed to is not immediately clear, though police body cam footage showed arriving officers discussing whether Call had suffered chlorine burns and showed an abandoned pool servicing truck. So while our officers searched for Call, multiple 911 calls were received about a man matching his description wandering through the area wearing only a tablecloth and attempting to get into several vehicles. So, what the hell? Surveillance footage captured Call prowling around a vehicle, which appeared to be glasses, a pair of blue slippers, and a beige tablecloth draped haphazardly around his waist. At one point, the birthday suited thief allegedly entered an occupied home and snatched the keys to a Mercedes before driving off. Oh my God, with this dude. Officers quickly found the stolen Mercedes, conducted a traffic stop, took Call into custody at gunpoint. Dramatic body cam footage shows he's been hit with a slew of charges, including theft by taking, burglary in the first degree, entering an automobile with the intent to commit a felony, loitering and prowling, and driving without a valid license. Suppose they didn't get him for indecent exposure, you know. So that was pretty dumb. All right, but I'm telling you that they get worse. They get worse. They get more ridiculous. Next one. Woman is a good one. Woman snitches on herself with a sign on her front door. Okay, so check this one out. This is a good one. Let's see. Yeah, here we go. West Virginia. So, not disparaging West Virginia. I'm just saying that this case is from West Virginia. All right. Some criminals are less savvy than others, but few are as unlucky in crime as April Lynn Lavender of West Virginia. The 38-year-old homeowner was busted for party favors after she snitched on herself with a sign on her own front door. Okay. According to a Facebook post by the sheriff's department, two women in Oak Hill, West Virginia, were arrested last week after police looked into a complaint of joyriding. Christy Wells, 22-year-old from Kincaid, West Virginia, was busted only for the joyriding offense, but the other woman, Lavender, did not get off so easy. While at the residence investigating the alleged joyriding, the deputies noticed a sign on the home's front door, a sign that led the deputies to conclude that party favors were most likely being sold from this residence. So check this out. Of course, the discovery didn't really require Sherlock Holmes level detective skills, but the bright pink sign taped to the door says, "Due to snitches, everyone entering my home is subject to being searched. All cell phones and drinks will be left outside. If you're not a snitch, it won't offend you if I search you." Not very smart. Obviously, deputies got around to asking some questions once they put an end to the joyriding. After questioning the two women, deputies reportedly got consent to search the residence. Deputies copped quantities of both H and M, as well as various other unknown substances that were believed to be also party favors. If someone posts a sign on their front door about searching snitches, it's a pretty safe bet that there are illegal drug party favors being sold at that location, said Sheriff Steve Kessler. Because of those findings, Lavender was hit with a felony offense charges for possession of a controlled substance with intent to deliver. Both Weiss and Lavender were arraigned in Fayette County Magistrate Court, remanded to the jail after they posted $1,500 and $10,000 bonds, respectively. So there you go. Really dumb. Really dumb. Okay. So that was a good one. That's number 2. I got 4 for you. So there's number 3. Cop calls on himself, or no, man calls cops. I'm sorry. Man calls cops on himself to get the reward money. Okay, yeah. This guy's real dumb. I think this is it. I think this is right. Okay. This is a good one. So I found this on Reddit, so it is what it is, but it's funny. And this is supposedly from a cop. This guy walks into a bank, writes a demand letter on the back of a copy of his own birth certificate. Yeah. Wearing a cutoff t-shirt that showed his tattoos. Was wearing gym shorts and one orange sneaker. Did this while wearing his ankle monitor. Left his ID and demand note in the bank parking lot. Remember the demand note written on the birth certificate. Past cops responding to the call got nervous, started tossing the cash out the window. Did it to prove a point to his girlfriend, apparently. Girlfriend's roommate called the cops as soon as he showed up. He waives his Miranda rights, taken into custody within 20 minutes. He got around $700 out of it, and this is why they call it dope. That's a good one, but my gosh. Wow. That's a tough one to beat because that's pretty dumb. But this guy, this is a funny one. It's a short one. So let's check this guy out. Last one. I think this is the right one. So we'll find out. Yeah, here it is. It's a short one. Detroit man arrested after calling cops on himself to receive the reward money. Quote, what do you mean I can't turn myself in and get the money? And that's the guy. I don't know if that's real. That's just funny. I don't know if it's real, but if it is, that's classic right there. Turns himself in to get the money. So so what do you guys why are you wearing that t-shirt, Hop Along? Because I want to wear it. That's why. And it's my channel and I wear what the hell I want. So that's why. That's an answer to your question. I made the shirt. I created the graphic. And there you could see the whole thing. You might like the other part that maybe you weren't able to see. But that's it. So deal with it. All right. What else we got here? So yeah, so what do you guys think? Naked man stealing the cars, woman snitching on herself with the sign, man calls cops on himself to get the reward money, and the bank robber that just doesn't do anything right. I mean, he's just leaving all sorts of clues. I know who I want to pick, but I want to see what you guys have to say. So yeah, Susie says we need to vote. Yeah, definitely, Susie. So I wish I had like a vote thing up where you guys could do it like that, but just drop it in the chat. Who do you think? The naked guy, the woman with the sign, the bank robber, or the guy that called the cops to get the reward money. So that see what you guys say about that. But while you're milling about the champion of the stupid criminals, we'll wind this thing down. But I appreciate you guys joining me today on the live. We do these every Saturday. at 4 o'clock Central. They're all the same with the open kind of free discussion. I really appreciate some of you had some fantastic contributions to some good cases. We broke off into talking about Black Dahlia and the Zodiac and West Memphis 3. I mean, I love that. That's what I love about true crime is you could be talking about a case and something happens, like in the David case with the frozen body. I referenced the Hella Crafts murder in Connecticut with the wood chipper because that's what he did. He killed her, chopped her up, froze the parts, and then put the frozen parts through the wood chipper. Now, obviously, they didn't use a wood chipper with Celeste, but I'm just saying that that part of it reminded me of that. So when you follow true crime, you get, I think you've heard a lot of these kind of scenarios before, right? And they ring true, like, wow, that's interesting. That ties into this. Or, like the Candyman, Dean Coral down in Houston. He preceded Gacy, but Gacy was very influenced by him, namely his apprentice, Hensley, the guy that Catherine Ramsland just wrote the book on. I've got it. I just haven't read it yet. The Devil's Apprentice or something like that. It's about William or Hensley, the assistant of Dean Coral that killed him. But the book's about him. But he's the one that invented the rope trick and the hand, all that crap that Gacy did. That's where he learned it from. Was that dude? William something Wayne Hensley is his last name. But thanks, Alicia. Thanks for thanking the live, thinking that you like the live. Yeah, people are saying they can't pick. Melissa's saying calling the cops for the reward. Yeah, that's pretty stupid. Personally, I'm going to say the bank robber because holy shit. I mean, writing the demand note on your birth certificate and then leaving it in the parking lot. I mean, that's not going to be too hard to figure out who did it. And then all the other stuff he did too with throwing the money out the window. I mean, what an idiot. Number two was the dumbest one. Which was number two? Woman snitches on herself with the sign. Yeah, that's pretty dumb too, Susie. I mean, yeah, I mean that I would have at least taken the sign down, right? I mean, or not let him see it. I don't know. I mean, it's pretty dumb to even have such a sign. I mean, what kind of trash is living in that house that would have a sign like that on the door, right? Ridiculous. Let's see here. Okay, I have been following this case since 2022. Never seen this channel. What a mess. Grown men making kids t shirts. That's an interesting attitude, and you're welcome to disagree with me. And I normally would just totally blow this off, but I just feel the need to, and I'm in the mood to disagree with you wholeheartedly. First of all, those were not kids, those are adults. I don't know in what world you live in that you think college kids, we call them kids, but they're not. They're 18 and older, they're a friggin' adult. They could be drafted, they could be in the military. There's all sorts of things that kick in when you turn 18. And one of them is growing the hell up. I left the house at 19 years old and I had to support myself and I was going to school. I was playing in a band at the time. I was busy, but I had to grow up. And everybody else that's probably watching that grew up in my generation had to grow up and deal with stuff. And these people are just a mess out there. So, yeah, I'm going to pick on them because I think they know a hell of a lot more than what they're letting on. Obviously, they've been lying since the damn minute they got on the scene. And so I have not an ounce of respect for either of these two women because they know what happened and they could exonerate a man, most likely, that's in prison for the rest of his life. Think about that. Just because they don't want to be bothered. Give me a goddamn break. So that's what I think about that. So, and Donna, if she comes back on or he, whatever, just get rid of him. So anyway, guys, I don't want to be on a downer, but I just felt, back in the band days, getting batteries thrown at me and beer bottles and all sorts of crazy stuff. Yeah, you got to get kind of nasty. So I don't do that much here, and I'm pretty tame these days. But every now and then I see something that just kind of frosts my ass. So I had to lay into that person. But I'm sure most of you probably agree with me. So yeah, Shelly says she likes the shirt. Most people like the shirt. And you know what? If you don't like the shirt, there's a magic button called, you see that X up in the corner? You just hit that magic button, it all goes away. It all goes away, and you could go back to doing whatever else you were doing, and you could not obsess about it, whatever. So why are you here? And you're sitting here looking at me wearing this shirt, and you're just sitting here stewing and feeling the need to act the fool in the comments and in the chat, and I'm just not dealing with it. So Jethro Troll says bank robber. I agree with you, Jethro. I think the bank robber, man, just an idiot. So so without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and watch this football game. But Foxy Rose said, "Good for you, Pete. You know that we love you always." Yes, I do. I appreciate that, and we don't. In all the time I've been doing these lives, Donna, I don't think we've ever really had somebody that I got into it with. And like I said, normally I just blow it off, but I just felt the need when I saw the kids. I'm like, they're not kids. I'm so sick of people calling them kids. And I'm tired of people playing patty cake with them in a police interrogation. It's bullshit. They know a lot. They should come forth and spill the beans. So, all right, we got another one. Susie says bank robber. So we're going with the bank robbers, the stupidest. They're all dumb though. So we'll do it again next week, guys. Pick out some dumb criminal stuff. And next week, it's pretty likely, it's about 99% likely, I will be with Michael Addario of Michael Addario Photography. He's got some great videos on the Idaho 4. If you're not familiar with Michael, it's at Michael Addario Photography, and you'll find his channel. And he's got this whole series on the Idaho 4. And we're going to talk next week about the Cry Havoc play that was going on that night. I did a video about, and his new video that has to do with Dylan and Bethany and amnesty or something like, I think it's the word amnesty, but it's good. So go check him out and support his channel as well. But until then, I'll see you guys next time. Have a good night.
You made it to the end. Thank you, my friend. You helped the channel grow. Don't forget to hit the like button. My little Ghana queen. Hit the like and scream. Oh, yeah.